The football glossary, a list of football terms, phrases and jargon to explain the beautiful game. What is against the run of play in football? The run of play can be a bit vague, but basically means which side is dominating the attack and creating the most chances, either in the game as a whole or in that period of the game. So, if a team score with their first shot for 20 minutes, having faced 10 shots in that time, they have just scored against the run of play. What is anti-football? This term can be used a bit snobbily at times, and is almost always used negatively. Anti-football refers to teams who will focus on making games very difficult for the opposition, almost to the complete exclusion of doing anything exciting or attractive themselves. It's those teams who just look to defend in huge numbers, commit fouls, and maybe try to sneak a goal on the counter-attack. This can be a valid strategy, particularly when a limited team is up against a far better side. It truly becomes anti-football when a side does it routinely regardless of their opposition, or when it's two sides who should be more or less equals on paper but one of them takes this approach anyway. What does between the lines mean in football? Football teams generally set themselves up in several lines of players: defenders, midfielders, attackers. The lines are sometimes very rigid, sometimes they are quite rough, but they'll always be there. This is how we are able to refer to things like 4-4-2, that's 4 defenders, 4 midfielders, 2 attackers. Getting between the lines is therefore very important to most teams' strategies, as if you're able to break past one line of defense, you're going to find yourself with a lot more time and space on the ball before meeting the next line of defense, which makes it easier for the attacking team to do something dangerous. Attacking teams will want to get between the lines, defending teams want to stop it from happening. What is a bicycle kick in football? Also known as an overhead kick or, in America, a Pelé kick, despite Pelé by no means being its inventor nor its master. If you're able to look at the picture above, you should get it immediately. If not, a bicycle kick is when a player with their back to goal hits an aerial ball by falling or jumping backwards into a horizontal position while kicking one leg up in the air to strike the ball. It is exceptionally difficult to do this accurately, so they are rare. But when they work, they are absolutely spectacular. What is a big game player in football? There are some players who just have a knack for repeatedly putting in excellent performances or scoring important goals in the most high-pressure games, cup finals, must-win games, local derbies, and so on. Zinedine Zidane, Steven Gerrard and Didier Drogba are good examples. These players are big game players, also known in US sport, and increasingly in football, as clutch players. What is the blindside in football? As in a blindside run, it's when an attacking player, usually a centre forward, but not always, is standing next to a defender and notice that they are looking in the direction of the ball. Instead of moving past the defender by running in front of them, the attacker might instead run behind the defender's back, hoping the defender will be so focused on the ball they are not aware that the attacker has already started running. This is referred to as going on the defender's blind side. Even if it's only a momentary thing, it can give the attacker a crucial advantage over the defender in reaching the ball if a teammate provides a suitable pass to meet the attacker's run. What is a block or low block in football? You will hear of teams playing a high line or playing deep when they don't have the ball, and these two opposite terms both refer to how high up the pitch they choose to put their last line of defense. Both strategies have advantages and disadvantages. A low block is playing deep, that is, when the last line of defense is close to their own goal, usually in a narrow line, that is often no wider than the width of the penalty box. Teams playing a low block often accept that they are not going to have much of the ball, so instead of trying to win it higher up the pitch, they prioritize making themselves as hard as possible to break down in the most dangerous area, in and around their own penalty box. What is a box midfield in football? Imagine a box, basically square, isn't it? Now imagine a midfield shaped like a box. There, you've got it. This can take a number of different forms: 3-2-2-3, also 4-2-2-2, even a 4-2-3-1 with the center forward coming back into midfield. But whatever the shape, it's a box midfield. That is, 4 central midfielders laid out in 2 lines of 2. Naturally, that means you get 2 sitting more defensively, and 2 further up the pitch, possible getting as high as the center forwards to become extra players in the forward line. What does box-to-box mean in football? Nearly always used before the word midfielder. A box-to-box player is one with the ability to keep running from the edge of one penalty area to the other and back again all game long, seemingly without tiring or losing their pace. The box, naturally, refers to the penalty box. That means that on top of a huge amount of stamina, a box-to-box midfielder at the highest level needs to be good at both ends of the pitch, both defensively capable and an attacking threat. Below the very elite level, you might find that a box-to-box player is one who does a huge amount of defensive work and can carry the ball forward well to help create attacks, but who isn't necessarily going to get loads of goals or assists. Having brought it forward, they will lay it off to more technical players to apply the final touch. What does compact mean in football? If a team is compact in defense, it means it's hard for opposition to find space between their players. Usually, it's used to talk about the width of the defensive lines. You will sometimes see sides playing very wide, especially if they're actively trying to stop wingers and fullbacks from making crosses or runs into the box. When the opposite is true, the defenders are mostly standing in a tight line within the penalty box, say, they can be described as compact. Often, a narrow, compact team are quite happy for the opposition to play crosses into their box, because they are confident that they have excellent headers of the ball who will deal with anything you throw at them. The term applies looking up the length of the pitch too, though. Some teams are happy to let their midfield push up the pitch away from the defense to try and win the ball higher up the pitch, where others may prefer their midfield to stay very close to the defenders. Again, this is being compact. What does cup-tied mean in football? Some cup competitions have rules that only allow a player to represent one club in that competition. So, if you play a game for Huddersfield Town in the cup, and then get a big move to Liverpool in the January transfer window, you wouldn't be allowed to play for the Reds in that competition having already played for the Terriers, because you would be cup-tied. This rule honestly made a lot more sense in the days before strict transfer windows. The idea was to stop teams from going out and signing a new hotshot striker before a big cup final, or whatever. And so some competitions have dropped it as a rule in recent years. The Champions League, for instance. The rule is still in effect for the FA Cup and League Cup, though. So when a new signing is made, you will sometimes see reference to them being unable to play in the cup because they are cup-tied. What is a dead ball specialist in football? Set pieces, set plays, dead balls. They are all the same thing, namely free kicks, penalties and corners. Accordingly, a dead ball specialist is a player who is particularly excellent at shooting, crossing or both from free kicks and corners. These players can be very valuable, particularly in teams with players who are capable of finishing from corners. Trent Alexander-Arnold, James Ward-Prowse and David Beckham are just a few prime examples from the Premier League past and present. What is a double pivot in football? Far simpler than the technical language would suggest. A double pivot is simply when there are two central midfielders in between the defense and whatever more attacking players are further up the pitch. That makes it the 2 in a 4-2-3-1, which is what it usually describes, but it can also be found in a 4-4-2, a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2. As long as it's two clear central midfielders who work in harmony with one another and neither is straying too far from the other, boy, you got a double pivot going. What is a half turn in football? A half turn is a body positioning technique used when receiving the ball, where a player angles themselves between facing forward and sideways, enabling them to scan the pitch, control the ball efficiently, and transition quickly from receiving to ball carrying. Midfielders like Phil Foden and Luka Modric excel at playing on the half turn, enabling them to break opposition lines with progressive passes or dribbles. It is a key skill for playmakers, but has become more prominent in defensive roles in recent years, with the increase in popularity for high presses. See below. What is a high press in football? A tactical strategy derived from the days of Johan Cruyff. A high press sees the team out of possession aggressively pressure the opposition in their own half to force mistakes and regain possession quickly. This approach relies on coordinated pressing triggers, athleticism, and organization in disrupting build-up play. The advantage is that when it works, your team can create chances by winning these high turnovers, as Jurgen Klopp demonstrated at Liverpool. While effective in winning the ball higher up the pitch, however, it can leave teams vulnerable to counter-attacks if not executed properly. What is a Hollywood pass in football? A Hollywood pass is a long, ambitious ball, usually diagonally across the pitch, that looks spectacular, but has a low probability of success. What is an overload in football? Simply put, overloads occur when one team is able to put more players into a specific area of the pitch than their opponents. This can be done by an attacking team with the ball and also without the ball, as a team can put more defensive players than attackers into the final third. It's also the name of the first, and best, single from the Sugar Babes, but that's nothing to do with football tactics, we're afraid. What is an overlap in football? An overlap sees a player run past a teammate that has the ball in order to apply pressure on the defense and create space for the attacking team. It can create a 2v1 overload, and either allow the ball carrier to cut inside, or pass to the overlapper and create a crossing opportunity. Gary Neville liked doing this so much with his best mate David Beckham on the right-hand flank with England and Manchester United that he named his podcast after it. What does numerical superiority mean in football? Numerical superiority occurs when a team outnumbers the opposition in a specific area of the pitch, creating an overload, and therefore an advantage in possession and passing options. While the term is most usually used when referring to midfield or attacking areas, it can be applied anywhere on the pitch. A manager could attain numerical superiority in wide areas by asking a fullback to overlap or in build-up, by by getting a midfielder to drop into the defense. What is a number 10 in football? The number 10 is an attacking midfielder, who operates behind the strikers, linking midfield and attack. Traditionally, this playmaker is responsible for assists and goals, offering high levels of vision and dribbling, with legends like Diego Maradona, Lionel Messi, and Zinedine Zidane epitomizing the role. While the role has often been seen as a luxury player, this role is often reserved for the most skillful and creative player in any team. What is a number 8 in football? A number 8 is a particular midfielder, who is neither a number 6 nor number 10. The majority are categorized as box-to-box midfielders who contribute both defensively and offensively in both boxes, needing a mix of stamina, tactical awareness, and technical skill to shuttle between attack and defense. But number 8s don't have to be the high-octane midfield engines winning balls and box-crashing. A number 8 can be a subtler player depending on the system. Some teams employ secondary playmakers alongside their number 10s, like Bernardo Silva next to Kevin De Bruyne at Manchester City, who is responsible more for tempo control than ball winning. What is a number 6 in football? The number 6 is another word used to describe a defensive midfielder. This is a role responsible for protecting the backline, controlling possession, and breaking up opposition attacks. The role requires excellent positioning, anticipation, and passing ability, with players like Sergio Busquets, Andrea Pirlo, and Rodri stellar examples of players who dictate play while providing defensive cover. Some defensive midfielders are deep-lying playmakers, while others focus purely on ball winning and screening the defense, but all can be described as number 6s. What is an inverted fullback in football? An inverted fullback is a defender who moves into central midfield areas, instead of staying wide, when their team is in possession. The role came about at Bayern Munich under Pep Guardiola, when the Catalan moved the likes of David Alaba and Philipp Lahm from their full-back berths in to create a solid block with the defensive midfield pivot while Bayern were on the ball. This was used both defensively and offensively. Bayern's inverted full-backs were used as a transition control, giving Bayern numerical superiority in the center of the pitch and 3 excellent defensive players who could stop counter-attacks. While Alaba and Lahm were also technically superb footballers who functioned like deep-lying midfielders in help to recycle possession and dictate the flow of the game from deep. Since then, Guardiola has used inverted full-backs at Manchester City, while Mikel Arteta, Xavi, Enzo Maresca, and Ange Postecoglou have also employed the role in their own setups. What is a hospital pass in football? A hospital pass is a weak, under-hit pass that gets its name from putting the receiving player at risk of injury due to an incoming challenge. Not every hospital pass will put a player at physical injury, though it's just a way of describing a poorly hit ball. What does shape refer to in football? Shape refers to a team's tactical structure and organization, both in and out of possession. A well-drilled shape ensures defensive stability, compactness, and attacking fluidity, while team losing its shape often struggles defensively and gets caught out. What is a switch of play in football? A switch of play is a long, diagonal pass that moves the ball from one side of the pitch to the other. This tactic stretches the opposition, exploiting open spaces and shifting defensive lines. What is a through ball in football? A through ball is a precise pass played between or behind defenders into space for a teammate to run onto. This type of pass is a key weapon for creative midfielders like Lionel Messi and Kevin De Bruyne, who use vision and timing to break defensive lines. What is a transition in football? There are 4 phases of play that teams can be in possession, out of possession, attacking transition or defensive transition. A transition refers to the phase of play when a team shifts from being in possession to out, or vice versa. This is sometimes called a counter-attack too, with transitional teams and players being those who are particularly good at breaking from defense to attack. What does the woodwork refer to in football? The woodwork refers to the goal frame. This can be either the crossbar or either of the posts. When a shot strikes the woodwork, it means the ball has hit the goal frame instead of going in.